Okay, so it's Shushan Purim. We're going to do today's Daf Yomi very quickly. There's a discussion about, destroying the names of an idol. So I'm Aloy Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva's to Belazar, Aloy Kfar Namar, Abei Tabdun. What is this about destroying the name? It says you should surely destroy them. So what is this about the name? So it says, that's to uproot the objects. So im kain, ma tamad loyma vadatim ishmom in makom ahu lechanis l'shem yachal l'shavach. When you destroy the name, it means like you should make a name. You might think the name is a complimentary name. L'shavach sal kadaitach. So the Gemara said, what do you mean a complimentary name? Or maybe just a neutral name. So Deuteronomy 7:26 says you should find it totally disgusting because it's banned. It's a contraband. Ein kol ein coats. So if the pagans would call their temple the house of Galia, which means a pile, we could call it a house of Karya, which means a ditch. They call their idol the eye of all, like the all-seeing eye, maybe, I don't know. So we call it the eye of the thorn. So like Beis Galia means something that's high and revealed, and Beis Karya means something that's dug, and so it's low. That's what Rashi says. It's Tana, right? Beis Galia Loshen Goy V'Gali, Beis Karya Loshen Chafir V'Shiflis. Tana Kameder of Sheishis Ha'akum Oivdim is the harms of Grace Hein Return. V'vdein b'sayef is Azraim is Yuakas, Hein Asern v'vdein b'sayef. If a pagan worships a mountain, you're allowed to have benefit from the mountain, and but the ones who worship it, if they are found guilty in the court, they're decapitated. Decapitation. And if they worship vegetables and seeds, so the vegetables and the seeds and so forth are actually prohibited from benefit, and also the punishment in the court of law for the sin of idolatry, which is a sin under the 7 laws of Noah as well, is decapitation. Amarle Damalachmani Yosi bar Yehuda he Damar Ilan Shanatel B'Sev Avodah Yasser. Rav Sheshes said to this teacher, because Rav Sheshes was blind, he had to have someone, tell him. He couldn't read himself, although it was, at that time was mostly an oral tradition, but some brises were written down. So he said, whose opinion is it the opinion of Yosef Yehuda, who said the tree which had been planted and then was worshipped later, after it was planted, is prohibited? For Banan. So the Gemara says maybe we should say that it's a tree that was planted in the first place to be an idol. So then it could be like the rabbis, so the answer is no. The Brisa is comparing the vegetables and the seeds to a mountain. The mountain was not planted by human hands as an idol. Just the people started to worship it later. So too, the people would worship. The pagans would worship their vegetables and legumes. They not only the ones that were planted to be, meaning that they were first planted just for regular vegetables, and then the people worshipped them. Sitmar, Avnei Har Shnidaldlu. What about the stones that were taken off of a mountain? They're like hanging off. They're like, they're broken off. Maybe they broke off on their own. Rashi says. Meaning like the rock fell off on its own. So the pagans started worshipping this rock that fell on its own. So it's a machlokes, disagreement between Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yechanan. One opinion says that they are prohibited, and one says they're permitted. So my time of the mandam mutaris kahar. So ones who say they're permitted, not that they're permitted to worship, but you're allowed to have benefit from the rocks. The stones are just like the mountain. Mahar shein by tfisis yidei adam u'motar. Apane shein ben tfisis yidei adam u'motar. So the mountain, a human being doesn't have any effect, doesn't move it or change it. So to these rocks. So even though it's prohibited to worship the mountain, but if they do, they don't prohibit the mountain from use. So Gemara has a question. Ma'ala harsha kain mechubar. But the thing is, the mountain is still attached to the ground. Hematichiach. So you have a law of an animal. Ma'ala v'hema shekain balas chayim. So the animal is not worshipped, is not attached to the ground, but the animal, even if it's worshipped, if it's still alive, you're allowed to have benefit from it. So you could say that's different because the animal's alive. The rock is not alive. So har yechiach b'chazar adin. So we could go back and forth, and we have just keep arguing back and forth. Tzad shavshan shein ben tfisis yedei adam u'motar. Af kol shein ben tfisis yedei adam u'motar. So the end of the story is that the mountain has no human effect on it. Human beings can't move the mountain, right? So to these rocks that fell on their own. But the animal, you can have human effect on it. But there is a difference that the animals can be considered similar to the mountains, which the rocks cannot. That the animals and the mountains stay how they are naturally. The stone, even though it happens naturally, it changed. There was a change in the stone. So then what about the laws of an animal being offered as a sacrifice or not being offered as a sacrifice and losing its status as sacrifice? If it develops a blemish that a human being did not put, a blemish that came on its own, so this could be considered similar to that the mountain, even though it changed naturally, without human intervention. Same thing we could talk about any animal or a tree that's all dried up and things like that. The tree manda asar. So what about the opinion that it's not? You cannot have any benefit from the stones. Where is it? So Where do we derive that from? Remember we saw in Deuteronomy 7, verse 26, that you should find it totally disgusting. Medina lehetera leitasya. So even though, meaning anything when it comes to idolatry, we should be strict and we should not try to permit it. It's connecting back to the story of the Indian wigs, I think. Even if pi halacha, you say it's not really to krevis Avodah Zarah, but still, that's the answer. So this time, the v'nei Rabbi Chia the Sharu, the boy Chizkiah, Zakaf beis v'shtach v'lamau, Zakadaitach l'shtach v'islo v'shtach v'la, v'kum b'ayalei, Haiz kifta have maisa, Iloi have maisa, Avaloi zakaf, L'mitasra, Shmina v'nei Rabbi Chia the Sharu. So we have a law. The sons of Rabbi Chia said you are allowed to have benefit. So Chizkiah was one of Rabbi Chia's sons. He said, what if someone made an egg stand upright in order to worship it? Does the egg become prohibited? So they thought, well, did they pick it up in order to bow down to it, but in order to worship it, but didn't worship it? So what Chizkiah is asking is, does standing up the egg, is that an action of human involvement that would prohibit the egg, or not? So, is it an act? Is it not an act? If he didn't make the egg stand up, he wouldn't become prohibited because it wasn't, even if it was worshipped. So we see that it's Reb Chia's children who said that the stones were kosher, because we're trying to figure out who's who. So since Chizkiah was one of Reb Chia's children, we'll say that's Reb Chia's children who allowed it. Like, not necessarily. We can always say it's Reb Chia's children who say it's prohibited. If he bowed down to it, even if he didn't stand it upright, it would be prohibited. What are we talking about here? So, if they picked up the egg to worship it and he didn't worship it. So Laman, who is that like? So if there's one, who is he following? There's one opinion that as soon as a Jew makes an idol, even if it's not worshipped, it's prohibited. There's another opinion that in order to be prohibited, it has to be worshipped. So which one is it? Either way, there's a doubt. So let's read. In the case where he had the egg stand upright to bow down to it and to worship it, he didn't worship it. And the pagan came and worshipped it. Yisrael. So if Yehuda said to Shmuel, if a Jew stood up a brick to worship it and he didn't worship it yet, and then the pagan came and worshipped it, Asura, then the brick is prohibited. The thing is, a brick, you can see it's standing upright, the way you set it up, but not an egg. An egg it's more round, so it's not that clear. Or maybe there's no difference. Teku. We'll leave this aside. Let's say we can. Teku just means let it stand. We don't have an answer, and the fact of the matter is, let's hope that this is totally theoretical and practical because it's quite ridiculous. And so it's fine to say teku here. So boy Rami Barchama. I mean, there's good reason to learn this. I mean, it's a mitzvah to learn this Gemara. I'm not saying that the Gemara is ridiculous. I'm just saying that in the end of the argument, the Chazal, they recognize this, not what to talk about. So Rami Barchama Mushtach Lahar, one of Ma'ol Mizbeach. Rami Barchama asked a different question. If the mountain was worshipped, and then someone took the stones and took them apart, and you're saying you're allowed to have benefit from it, can you have a religious benefit from it? Can you make the altar for the temple, or in the pre-temple days, can you make an altar, a Jewish altar out of these items, out of these rocks? So we're on Amud Beis. Yesh nevod mechubar etzel gevurah. Oy ein nevod mechubar etzel gevurah. It's the prohibition of a worshipped object to disqualify something that's attached to the ground or not. Tim Saloim yesh nevod mechubar etzel gevurah machshirei korban kekorban damu eloi. So if you're going to say the prohibition of something that was worshipped says even if it's attached to the ground, you can't have it for in the temple for something for God, for religious purpose, for the true God. So is there a difference whether it's for a sacrifice or not, for a korban? Amarav Kal V'chomer. Rav says Kal V'chomer. It's an a priori argument. Ma'esnan shemuta b'solosh lehedyot aser b'mechubar l'gvo'a ch'sav leisavi esnan zonim v'chir kelev v'shna talosh l'shna b'mechubar nevet shasa b'solosh lehedyot einadin shasa b'mechubar l'gvo'a. So he's trying to make a kal v'chomer like this. It's kind of a deichik. It's kind of pushing it, but it. All right, we could talk about this. It's the real Talmudic reasoning here. Bible tells us that you're not allowed to bring a harlot's wage or the cost of a dog as a sacrifice in the temple, but those monies, certainly a dog and even the harlot's wage, did not become prohibited for use for the commoner. It's just for the temple. But with those issues with the temple, it doesn't matter whether or not it's connected to the ground, whether it's attached to the ground or it's detached from the ground. Something that's worshipped, if it's detached from the ground, you can't. It's prohibited for ordinary use, for secular use. So you would think that if there's no difference between attached to the ground and not, as far as the harlot's wage, so then we should probably be strict with the things there. There should be no difference if attached to the ground or not. It should be totally prohibited for temple use. However, this is really pushing it. Amarle Rav Huna Breda Rav Yoshua Rav. It's a nice way of thinking. Rav Huna, the son of Yeshua, said Rav Chilif, maybe say the opposite. Maneva Chasa b'Solosh Etzel Hedyot Motabe Mechubar L'Gvo'a Shneimar Lahim L'Gvo'a Harim L'Arm L'Ahehem Leish L'Hedyot Leish L'Gvo'a Esnan Shemotabe b'Solosh L'Hedyot and Shemotabe Mechubar L'Gvo'a. So even when it comes to where do we know that the harlot's wage, if it is something connected to the ground, would be prohibited for temple service? It says their gods are on the mountains, right? Deuteronomy 12:2. So if something that's attached to the ground you are allowed to use to serve God, even when it's idolatry, because the mountains are not their gods, just the gods are on the mountains, the pagan gods, the idols. So too we should say with the Esnan Zaina, with the harlot's wage, if it's attached, it's only prohibited if it's attached, if it's detached from the ground. If it's attached to the ground, it should be permitted. And if you say it's the house of the Lord your God, right? You shouldn't bring the Esnan Zaina, right? You shouldn't. It's only. Why does it say that? Because we're going to read Beis Hashem Lakecha, Prat Lafarish Eina Bala Labayas. That comes to exclude the paraduma that doesn't enter the temple, the red cow. The Relez of Chamam Labas is a Rikuim. That's Relez's opinion. The sages say comes to include the gold plates that decorate the walls of the Holy of Holies. So Marley, Funas at Rishua, Anakamin L'chumra, I'm going to learn this strictly. Vatamat L'kula, you're learning it leniently. Kula L'chumra L'chumra Perchinan. When you have these leniency and stringency, especially biblical law, we're strict. Similarly, if Papa or Ava or Papa Silver call Heicha Vichal Heicha the Kakula V'chumra Kula Perchinan V'ozah the Pesach. Flig Relez of Rekiva, the Relez of some of the Chumra V'kama Chayv L'Gaver Rekiva L'Kula Ufotar V'kaparach Rekiva L'Kula. So if Papa said to Rava, is this really true that we have to be strict? Don't we sometimes say you have to be lenient? Sometimes the Kal V'chomer, they're sprinkling on a contaminated person the ashes so he could bring a korban Pesach. Eliezer and Akiva have different opinions. Eliezer holds that we're strict and he has to bring. Rabbi Akiva holds leniently and he doesn't have to bring. So Rabbi Akiva holds leniently to Snan. We learned in the Mishnah, Heishav Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva answered the Kal V'chomer. It could be okay, or Chiluf, maybe it's the opposite. You can't sprinkle the ashes. That's a rabbinical law on the Sabbath. That doesn't override the Shabbos because Ein Shvus B'Mikdash.
Are you drunk again?
No. Shechita Shidarais L'Kol Shekein. So all this, the more so to slaughter them, the sacrifices on Shabbos. Hasam Rabbi Eliezer Gemara. So Rabbi Eliezer taught like this. Vayaka like Talmudah. Rabbi Eliezer forgetting his own teaching. Vas Rabbi Kiva Kurei. Rabbi Kiva is reminding him behind the Amalei, and that's what he said to him. Rabbi, Altach Pireini B'Shasadin. Don't deny what I'm saying this time when we're learning. This is something you taught me. Kach Makobel Nimimcha Zah Shvus. Shabbos. You taught me that sprinkling the ashes of the red heifer in the water, that's a rabbinical prohibition on the Sabbath, but still it doesn't override Shabbos, even in the temple, because sprinkling is outside the temple. I have no idea. Open up and see. So, Bayram Rami Barchama, Mishtacha Lekama Schita Mal Menachis, Ishninai Benevod or Yinshinim Benevod. Says Rabbi Chona asked, what if someone worshipped a standing stalk of wheat, and then if the wheat was cut and the flour was made, it went through a whole change, can it be used as a sacrifice in the temple? So Mamar Zutra Breder of Nachman, or not, because there were wheat sacrifices, there were flour sacrifices. Mamar Zutra Amar of Nachman, Zutra is the name of Nachman. Tashma, listen to this. Call is certainly gavim misbeach although saying mutarin. If an animal, for some reason, it did something, it was used for a sin, so you can't bring it as a sacrifice. They were worshipped, or it could be bestiality or something. The children of these animals you can bring a sacrifice. Sunny Allah Rebelezer Oyster, but there's a brisa that says Rebelezer says even the children can't be offered. Lavit Marlah. Didn't we say like the summer of Nachum Amar Bar Nachum is the name of Bar, or some says Rav is the name of Nachman. Machlokes Kshenirbu L'Seif Ibru. It's a dispute when the sin was committed before the animal was pregnant. We learned this before in Daf Chavdal and Beis. Evil is safe nearby. They were concerned, but everyone agrees that if the sin was committed while the animal was pregnant, then the baby is also not allowed to be used. All right, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have all the best. Thank you.